Hello everyone. So we have discussed like how function can be created in the last class, right? And how to call the function from our JDBC program using the callable statement. In which database I have created the functions like experience of employee in MySQL. Right. So I request to try this creating the functions and procedure. You can also try to create the procedure with the parameters of mode in, mode out, and mode in out. Okay, so we'll open the Eclipse today and I will explain the topics. Okay, also I will explain the topics called which are very important. Nothing but the transaction management, how the transaction management service will work. Okay, in JDBC, so far we have discussed what are the different types of statements in JDBC, right? First one is statements, and we have discussed statements, prepared statements, and callable statements. Now we have to understand two to three concepts of other JDBC API. Okay, in the JDBC API, like these are the important topics in the transaction management. Okay, so we have this first one, transaction management in JDBC. Like second one is scrollable result set in JDBC, and the third one is connection pooling. Then you will also understand like how it works, connection pooling. Right. So these are the three concepts of JDBC, and these are enough concepts to learn in JDBC. Okay, so it's best further like whatever so far I have discussed, and these three concepts are enough to learn, right? So nowadays, we are not directly working with the application of JDBC API in the application of real time, right? So you are always going to be work with Spring Boot, with the Spring Data JPA, right? That we are going to be work in real time. Okay, so but internally the data uses JPI. Okay, so what it will use, the Hibernate. That Hibernate uses the JDBC. So low level APIs, right? So whatever the high level APIs you are using, for the low level APIs always will be the JDBC API. Low level APIs is always a JDBC API, right? So we should know about like first one, what is the statement, how it will work, what is the prepared statement, how it works, and what is the callable statement. So what are the connection properties, and we have already learned this and we are very much aware of this, how does it work, right? So the connection properties, and who is the driver, and what is the jar file to be added in our build path. Okay, in the build path, how we will add the jar to run the program. Okay, so these are all very important things that we should know, and that's the reason why we got all this knowledge from our earlier sessions. And now the today's upcoming topics that I want to cover, the concepts called the transaction management in JDBC. Right. First one is the transaction management, and the second one is crawlable result, and third one the important concept, which is nothing but the connection pooling. So these are all three are important concepts we are going to be learn as part of our JDBC. Then after that we will enter into the servlet technologies. Right. So here we have to be understanding about the transaction management in JDBC. How does it work? Okay, so have you like ever seen a transaction? We all are know like what is the transaction, how does the transaction will work in our daily life, right? So what is the transaction? Let's take a simple example. Okay, so we can make the transaction from one account to the another account. Okay, when we are transferring the amount, money transfer. So it is nothing but the money transfer from one account to the another account, one bank account to the another bank account. So that is nothing but the money transfer. Okay, so money transfer is one example. Like, and another one is like phone pay, that will be redirected to the particular website. The other uh, bank link, like if someone using the Axis or HDFC Bank, then by using the phone pay, we can do the transaction and it will redirect to that particular website. So which is nothing but the distributed applications, right? So like we want to use the phone pay to pay the Hathway bills, internet connection bills, or if we want to order food through online like a Swiggy, Zomato, and for traveling purpose, like we have the Uber, Ola, and what that Rapido, right? So these all are the services which we use in our like daily routine life, right? Apart from this, any other transactions you already aware of, like we do have this seat reservation in IRCTC, right? Have you ever booked a ticket in Book My Show? Yes, obviously you does that, right? In bookmyshow.com. Okay, so uh, Book My Show. Okay, so which is Book My Show, right? It is also one type of a transaction. Basically, what is a transaction? When we are doing the online shopping, uh, we have so many online shoppings, right? Like purchasing the clothing or anything, accessories, whatever we want. We have so many e-commerce website which are online shoppings, Amazon, Flipkart, Myntra, Ajio, so many, and hotel booking. These all are the various examples in money transaction, right? Have you ever withdraw money from the ATM machines? So that is also one type of transaction. So these all are comes under the transactions, right? So these all are comes under the transaction. Okay. Because when you visit the ATM machine, okay, and you have made withdrawal of money from the ATM machine. So that is one type of transaction, right? And because on the end, what it will show on the screen, you have withdrawn the money. What the message it will show, like your transaction is successful or completed. Okay, so basically, what the transaction says, it has some group of statements as per the definition of transactions. Okay, so it has, here it is, it has some group of statements, or we can call it as a operations, okay, which are executed in a single unit. Okay, so let's see this example. How does it will work? Okay, you want to buy a ticket. So what are the group of operations which are involved? As we have discussed, no, group of statements, a group of operations. So what are the group of statements or group of operations? Okay, so first what you will do, you will open the bookmyshow.com, then you will select the date and time, you will choose the movie, and you will choose the show time. Okay, so you first what you will do, you will book the ticket. Suppose you want to give the three inputs as the tickets, so let me just write here. Okay, so the inputs, what are the inputs? The first input is nothing but uh, when you open the website, okay, you have to select how many tickets, right? Once you open the app or website, you can see and select how many tickets you want to buy, how many number of seats maximum, like I can book 6 seats. I want to book like 6 seat. Okay, so these are the three inputs. So what are the three inputs? Let me just write here two inputs which are clear understanding. First one is theater. You will select which theater you want to, and you will see the tickets which are available. You will book the tickets, right? tickets, and the third one is nothing but the timing, show timing. Right. So these are the three inputs. Like we have a many inputs, but these three inputs are enough for this exam. Right. For this example, these three are enough. So you choose the theater, and you will book the tickets, and you want to give the inputs. Okay. So I want to so I'm using the application. Okay, book my show application. I will open that, and how many tickets I want, I will select that, and how many seats. Like maximum I can book 6 seats as per. Okay, so might be I want to book, for example, like I want to book 4 seats after giving the input movie name. Then you selected the uh, theater, then you selected the tickets or movie name. Right, movie name. So this is another input. Okay, you are selecting the movie, and you are selecting the theater. Right. So all these are nothing but the inputs. So once the user given all these inputs, what will happen? It will verify really these any seats are vacant or not. This sequence, if I book the 4 tickets, okay, so it will check. It will verify like the seats are available or not. For example, you want to book 3 tickets, so it's a new movie. Okay, it's a houseful. It's a very popular, and from day one onwards, you are trying to book the tickets. So what will happen in that case? Suppose you want to book 4 tickets, but available only two. Okay, but your requirement of booking the tickets is 4. In that case, what will happen? You will get the notification pops up that sorry, the tickets are not available. Okay, so your requirement is 4 tickets, but available only two tickets, because it's a hit movie and it is a houseful movie. So it's just giving us only, you can, sorry, the tickets not available. Right, so you will get that type of message. So first, what will happen once giving all the inputs, the transaction starts. So what are the operations that are executing in the transaction? Okay, so you have to understand these are the inputs, and so what are the op- operations? Okay, so these are, we have already discussed. Okay, we have already discussed like what are the statements and what are the operations that we are using in our in the single unit booking the tickets. Okay, so first one is nothing but the transaction, the group of transactions or the operations. So these are the operations in the single unit ticking, like tickets booking. Right, so first, where it will verify the seats, and second one, if the seats are available, then what will happen? It will it will show the seat layout page. Right, we can see that seat layout page. Okay, they 2 members, that team members has already booked, so that page layout will show where it will like you can choose the place and the seats and the number. Right, numbers means nothing but you can reserve your seats. Okay, so second one is nothing but they reserve the seats. And then you can select some seats, there it will be reserved those seats for you. Okay, so after that, last option is the third one, proceed to payment. Okay, so you have choose in that page layout how many seats you want, then it will immediately redirect to the, as soon as you select the payment button, it will redirect. Okay, so it will move to the next page, the or option where you need to give all your payment method. So what type of payment method, like credit card or debit card, phone pay, whatever the mode of payment you want to give, the card number, or also you pay through the phone pay or gpay, something like that. So that is called what now, payment operations. Okay, so this is nothing but the operations, payment operations. So the in a single unit, so the third one is nothing but the operations, payment operations, right? So what will happen once the payment is done successful, then it will give the message as it will issue the tickets, right? Once it will issue the tickets, the fourth one is it will issue these tickets. Suppose if the payment is not done, okay, if the payment has error, will it issue the tickets? No. If the transaction fails, if the payment is not done successful, then it will not, obviously it is not going to be issue the tickets, right? You won't get the message to your mobile if that seats are reserved for you, or mail id, you won't get any notification message, right? You will not get. So when the seats are issued, once the payment is successful, if the when the seats will issue, only when the payment is, or when the transaction is successful, otherwise it will not. Okay, so we have this four types of operations. So these are very important. Inputs are nothing but to select the theater, to select the movie and the timing, right? So those are inputs and these are the operations. Okay, hope you understand this one. Okay, so let me give the clarification for this. Okay, here we have one user. Okay, so the username is Arvind. Okay, so what the user is doing, Arvind is a user, right? He is giving all the inputs, whether the seats are vacant or not. Then, if the seats are vacant, then the user will select those seats. So those seats will reflect. Then those seats will be reserved by Arvind, right? After that, after the payment, after the issue the ticket, so we will have the different operations. Okay, if all the operations went well, okay, so what happened? Okay, username is Arvind. So what happened if all the operations are went well and it is executed successfully, they all are good, they are went very well, then the tickets are issued, it is executed, right? If it is successful means it is executed. Let's assume, okay, it is a like a, this is a success point where I will show you the clear example here. So let me just uh, take one example for our better understanding here. Okay, so we have two options. One is success. First one is we have success, and another one is we have failure. Right. So let me just write here. This is success. The transaction. This is the transaction that it will show whether it is a success or failure. Right. Okay. So when it will shows the transaction which is successful or fail. So what will happen in this case? Here it is. Let me just list. Okay, so till here we have discussed. Now here, okay. So let's assume it is a success point. Okay, just assume it is a success point. For example, something went wrong, then it leads to the more points. So what the points that we have? We have the another point. If the uh, transaction is successfully done, it will show success, otherwise it will show the failure point. Means that if everything is goes well, then successful, if not, that is something error has occurred, then we will call it as a unsuccessful, which is nothing but the failure. Then I'm calling it as a failure point. So this is nothing but the failure point, right? So this is the transaction. Okay, so this is the transaction done. So here, okay, so transaction, it contains a group of operations which is executed in a single unit. So this is the transaction. Let me write here the transaction. Okay. So what it contains? This, it contains a group of operations, or we can call it as a set of operations executed as a single unit, right? So what will happen in this case? The payment will fail when, okay, once the payment is failed, if the payment is failed, then whatever the seats will be reserved by the user, those reserved seats are get unreserved because they should be available for another user, right? If if the user if the user has booked the once it gets the failure, the transaction is unsuccessful, it is failed, then what happened? So the seats will be uh, redirected, means that will be reserved for by another user, right? So those seats become available for another user. If all the operations executed, then the operations is successful. If any operation is failed, then the transaction become fail. I hope it's clear, right? If Arvind transaction is successful, then the seats will be reserved. If the transaction is failed, then those seats will be available for any other user. Okay, so now my question is like, what is the transaction contains? Okay, so the transaction contains a group of group of statements or group of operations that are executed in a single unit. Okay, so that are executed in a single unit. You got my point, right? So that is the definition. Transaction consists a group of statements or operations which are executed in a single unit. So every transaction completes in a failure or success. Okay, so this transaction is fail, also called, if the transaction here, so if the transaction is successful, we can call that transaction is completed. If the transaction is failed, then also we can call it as a transaction is complete with failed message, right? The notification will show, but we cannot say the transaction is not completed. So if it is a success or failure, we must say that transaction completed. Okay, transaction can complete with the success message or failure message, right? Here you can see a transaction can complete either success or failure message. So coming to the JDBC program, if I am executing the SQL statements, so each statement will execute as a one transaction. Okay, in the SQL, it will, what it will do, it will execute each SQL statement as a one transaction. Okay, so let's understand here. Okay, so I have the JDBC program. I will draw this. Okay, so this is my, okay, here. This is my Java program. Okay, so here I have the queries, like first one, query one, and query two, so on. Query three or query four, like that. It continues. Okay, so whatever the number it is. So in my Java program, like I have this many queries. Okay, so what happened, first it will show query 1. Okay, then it will execute query 2 by the program. I want to execute the query 3 for a program. So what happened, query 1 will be executed as a one transaction, right? So query 1 would be a one transaction. and query 2 will also execute, so it is a one more transaction. Query 3 will execute one more transaction, means query 4 another transaction, means every query will execute as a separate or individual transaction, which means if query 1 executed successfully, that is done, the transaction is committed. Okay, so here what happened, the transaction is committed. If the query 2, okay, if the query 2 is successfully executed, then it is committed. Okay, so query 3 is executed, then it will also committed. So every query will execute as a one transaction in JDBC program. So these are the three queries, okay, in separate transactions. Suppose all these three queries I want to execute as a single transaction. So what will happen if I, so by default in a JDBC program, every query, okay, every query will execute as a separate transaction. So that is the reason why you are typing the, what you are typing in queries in SQL plus, in SQL plus or SQL prompt. When you are typing the query, do you know, like if you are typing any query in SQL prompt after executing the query, uh, what, for example, like if it is an insert query, then you are executing, then it will show like the command, okay, the next command you are typing, then you have to do the commit, because the query will execute a temporary. By committing, the result of the query is permanent, right? Here you have in SQL plus, in SQL or MySQL, let me just open this MySQL workbench so it will be clearly understanding for you. Okay, after writing any query like a number of students, if you want to save it in the database, then what will happen, you have to be give the commit, right? So I enter the password as a root. Here it is again say showing the same thing. But see here, after you have inserted some values, okay, you have inserted some values, then you are giving the commit. Why you are giving this commit? Because you want to save it, these records you want to save it as a permanent, so that's why you are using the commit. Okay, you have to do the commit. I hope this is clear, right? So what about the JDBC program? Suppose the same insert query. Okay, so this is the, in SQL you have seen, in SQL you have seen this. What about in JDBC? Like when you are writing the Java program in Eclipse, uh, okay, when you are inserting the queries, you are executing from like a JDBC program, then you are committing. Here we have to be commit in SQL. In SQL we have to be, after entering some records, we have to be to commit for permanent purpose. In Java it is no need, it is not required. Okay, so what will happen in Java, every query, okay, once it will execute on a database, that will happen committed, right? In Java it is no need to write the commit, it will automatically done. Okay, from JDBC program, whatever the queries you are executing, they are automatically committed. Okay, for, okay, so every query will execute as a separate transaction. So till here, now I hope it is clear. uh, yes. So my requirement is what, today I want to execute all the queries in JDBC program. I want to execute as a single transaction. When you want to execute a multiple queries from your JDBC program as a single transaction, then you need to be apply the concept. Okay, so what are the concept? First, my first concept is nothing but the transaction management in JDBC. Okay, so I want to use this statement. So these are the important, and so my first concept is nothing but the transaction management in JDBC. So let me write few points here. Okay, so you have you will understand easily in this case, right? Here, so I guess I have already wrote here somewhere here. Okay, so when you want to execute a multiple queries from your JDBC program, so it is called a single transaction. Then you need to apply the concept. Okay, so now we are discussing the transaction management in JDBC. Okay, from JDBC program, each SQL query will execute as a separate transaction. Okay, it will execute as a separate transaction. It means once the query is executed, then automatically it will be committed in our database. Right. So it is a once the query is executed, then automatically it will committed in our database. We no need to be separately do it. Okay, if you want to execute a multiple queries in a JDBC program in a single transaction, then you have to be use transaction management in JDBC. Right, multiple queries in the JDBC program in Eclipse, when we are writing the Java program, then we have to use this concept. Like how there are some methods. Okay, there are some methods that which has given in JDBC. If you want to execute like multiple queries as a single transaction, first of all you have to be disable the auto commit mode. Okay, auto commit mode of the connection object, then you disable it. Otherwise what will happen? Okay, so otherwise what will happen? each Whatever each and every query will execute, it will be committed, right? But if you want to execute a multiple queries as one transaction, then what should I commit? After all these queries executed successfully, then I have to give the commit. Okay, so here what happened during this query of execution, if any query has a problem, then I should be roll back all the operations I have disabled as a auto commit mode. It means that in JDBC program transaction is started. Okay, so by disabling the auto commit mode, we start a transaction. Within the transaction what we can execute, like queries, if at all the queries will be executed successfully, then I can commit the transaction. Okay, so my transaction is completed with the success. If there is an error occurred, then I have to be roll back the operations. If it is successful, then I can do the commit. If it is error, if anything is error comes up, then what I will say, roll back. Okay, so we have to do the roll back. So that is also one operation. So my transaction is completed but with failure. Okay, so rollback means, okay, so these are the important. Rollback means transaction is completed with failure message. Commit means transaction is completed with success. Okay, if I want to execute the multiple queries as a single transaction, then what steps need to follow? Like you have to be follow these steps. First one is nothing but the disable the auto commit mode of the connection to begin the transaction. Okay, so what we have to do, we have to be disable the auto commit mode. There is a method already. Okay, so what is that method? Like set auto commit mode. Then I'll tell you like how to do that. Only we have the set of values as a false. Okay, so here I will show you. So if all the queries are executed successfully, then you have to be commit the transaction. Okay, you have to be commit the transaction. If query has an error, any query execution is failed, then we have to be roll back the transaction. Commit means successful. Rollback means failure. If in connection, like here, in connection in connection object we have the methods for transaction management. So what are the transaction management method? First one is nothing but set auto commit. Okay, set auto commit, we are giving passing the false boolean value. So by default it is a true parameter, but if you want to be begin with the transaction, you have to disable it. Okay, how to disable? By sending the false. Okay, so what do you mean by set auto commit means false? True means auto commit mode is enabled, right? So here we have the false. False means like when the auto commit is false, so it is true means set of auto commits which is enabled, right? So here we have the three methods that we are going to be used. Okay, so first one is set auto commit, and second one is commit, and third one is rollback. So how many methods we have in our JDBC transaction management? Three methods. So what I'm saying is con dot set auto commit false. What it? Okay, so where I wrote, I did not wrote. Okay, no problem. Con dot set here. Con dot set auto commit false. So what happened? It will here. What happened? I wrote con dot set auto commit false. It will disable the auto commit mode. So these statements will be disable the auto commit mode. Okay. So con dot commit. So what is this? Commit. Con dot commit here. Con dot commit method. Con dot commit. It will roll back the transaction. So here it will commit the transaction. Let me just write. It will commit. Okay, so it will commit the transaction. I hope if I'm writing like this, you will better understand clearly, right? So con dot commit method. So what happened? It will roll back the it will roll back. It will roll back the transaction. And the third one is here. Roll back means it will roll back the transaction, right? Here I'll just make it as a clear understanding. Okay, a transaction can either be a success or failure. Success means nothing but commit, and failure means nothing but rollback. So these are the two things that we have to be understand here. Con dot rollback. Con dot commit means successful. Con dot rollback means transaction. It will roll back. It just like a failure. Success or failure, which means the commit. Failure means rollback. Okay, so all these methods like we have to be called with which object? Connection object. So when I am writing, okay, when I'm writing the JDBC program, like how do you know? How do you know there is an error in executing one of these queries? While executing the queries, if there is an exception occurred. So what do you understand? If the query is not executed in the database successfully, then SQL exception will be thrown, right? So tell me, if the exception is occurred, then what can we say? Once the query is failed, if any one query is failed, okay, then what I have to do? This is my code. Okay, how to complete my transaction with success or failure? Failure means what I should do? I say rollback. Okay, so my question is, where should I call this con dot rollback? In catch block. Okay, in which block I need to be call this? In con dot rollback in catch block. So here, try and catch block. So if I want to write con dot rollback, rollback means transaction failed here. So where should I call this? Con dot commit in the try block with it is a like a successfully one after other. Then I have to be commit in the try block. Okay, where should I write the con dot commit? In try block or in the catch block, or I can write it in the finally block. Do we have finally here? No, but we can do it in the finally block will execute everything, right? So if try block has a problem, still finally block will execute. Okay, so how can we commit in the finally block? It doesn't happen, it's like it's wrong. Okay, so where should I write con dot commit? In which block? In try block. So in try block, after all the queries, okay, what's the last statement here? Con dot commit. Con dot commit, which is nothing but our last statement I'm writing here in the code. Okay, I will give you one example. We will discuss it, but currently, first I would like to give you this concept: con dot set auto commit. Con dot set auto commit false here. Con dot set auto commit as a false. So what this statement will do? It will disable the auto commit, which is nothing but the transaction started here. So this is called the transaction begin in try. Okay, so this is nothing but the transaction begin. So we will execute in try block. The first executes the query 1, then executes the query 2, executes the query 3. Okay, so all these queries I want to execute as a one transaction or one group, right? And finally, if the transaction con dot commit, which is nothing but the transaction success. Okay, here you can see. So my question is my question is, where should I write the rollback in the catch block? What should I write? Okay, in every question, it is executed successfully. What is the last statement in try block, which is nothing but the conduct commit method. So, what does it mean? In JDBC, like what are the different methods is available for the transaction management? Okay, so we will write one JDBC program. It will be clearly you will get one understanding for these things. Okay, so in the if I am writing one JDBC program, okay, we will do transfer the money. First, we have one table, so that table name is accounts table in my database. Okay, in that account table, we have one account number. Okay, account number, it is one column. Account number is one column, and another one is account holder name and balance. So I have three columns. Okay, so how many columns I have? I have three columns in my account. Account is my table name in the database, test database, and I have three columns. First column is account number, account holder name, and third column is balance. We want to transfer money from one account to the another account in my table, so at least I have to have a two records are required, and we want to transfer from one account to another account. If we want to transfer the money, right, both the accounts are in the same table. So the first I need to create the accounts. So let me do in mysql. Okay, with the three columns: account name, account holder name, balance. Okay, so these are my three columns. Now I will open my workbench, which I have the database one. I have the database of test, right? So here it is. Okay, so do I have any tables? Yes, I have only one table, which is nothing but EMP table. Okay, in my test is my database. So what I will do here, I'm using the test database. So use test. First, what you will do? Use test. I want to use this test database here. Use test. It is successfully done. Now, second, I have to create one table. Which table I want to create? I want to create the account table. My table name is account. So here create create table. My table name is account. Okay, so my table name is account. Now my first column name is nothing but account number. So I'll give this as the account number, and int this is nothing but the primary key. Primary key, right? Primary key. So this is my first column, which is nothing but the account number. Okay, and my second column is nothing but the account holder name. I just holder name also fine. Anything, whatever you want to write. Okay, account holder underscore name. So this is my account holder name, which is nothing but the worker uh, length. I'll give as a 20, and the next thing what I will do is my third column is nothing but the account balance. Account underscore balance. This is my third column, which is nothing but I'll give the data type as a double. Now what I will do, I'll just close it. Okay, so you want to execute this table, then what you have to do, um, execute it, run this. So what it's saying, create account table is done, created. Okay, now I want to see this table. Okay, how many columns are created. Okay, I select here, select star from which my table name is account. So run this. So what it says, uh, one table is created with three columns. First one is account number, second one is account holder name, and third one is account balance. Okay, so now I don't have any records in this tables, only I have three columns. So insert some records. Okay, and my records are, I have to be insert some records, right? I have to be drag it down. I want to insert few records. I'll for understanding purpose, I'll just insert two records as of now. Okay, so insert into account. My table name is account, and values. Okay, so what are the values I want to give? I want to give as a 10 double 10 double 1. I'll give, and name I will give as a array. Okay, here, and amount, he has a balance amount of 7,999. Okay, so this is a double, right? Yeah, I have created this. Now I want to execute this record. What happened, one row is inserted here, one row affected. Now I'll just copy and just change the values here. I want to just change the values, insert into the account values. Here I will, for my better understanding purpose, we just take it as a 2002202, and name I can give as Sam. And account balance, how much account balance does Sam holding? He has something like 4,500. Okay, 4,500, as it is a double value, so point 0. So these are the two records. Here you want to see this record, you can execute it. So one row is, another row is affected. Okay, one row is affected, so I just want these two records are enough for me. Okay, so two records inserted. Now here what I will do, I will do commit, as this is a SQL, right? So in JDBC it is not required, but here it is required. It is not executed. So finally, zero rows affected, committed. Okay. In JDBC program, I have to commit or no need to commit. In it is not required in JDBC, but it is required in this SQL. So it will in JDBC it will be automatically committed, right? So select the star from if you want to see. Then what you have to do here, you have to put the cursor and say that two records are inserted or not. Okay, so here I'm just executing. Here you can see the two records are successfully entered. Okay, here the first one is, have you seen this two records here, right? So first one is Arvind and second one is Sam. So two records are inserted. So what is our JDBC? Okay, so third one is, it is showing the null as we don't have the third record. We just inserted only two records. Now I'll write the program in the JDBC. Okay, we will see in the JDBC now.